and theology.
Prophet Muhammad was born around the year 570. And then when he was 25, so about 595, he marries his first wife, Khadija. Now, together they have a daughter. She's Fatima. When she grows to womanhood, she then marries the cousin of Muhammad, and he's Ali. So Fatima and Ali together have two sons, Hussain and Hussain. So Hussain is the grandson of Muhammad and the younger of the two sons of Fatima and Ali. Now, what makes them important is that we have a story recounted in the Quran that one day Muhammad goes into a room on his own, lies on the floor and pulls a cover or a blanket over him. And then successively he calls in these four other people, Fatima, Ali, Hassan and Hussein, and the four of them go under the blanket with Muhammad. Now we're told they are purified by God, so they are rendered the purest of all creation. So this becomes the holy family of Islam. Now for the Shia, this is a very important moment, because it shows that God has chosen that leadership of the worldwide Muslim community should come from this family and from this family alone. So this becomes the holy family of which all leaders of the community must be born. So after Muhammad's death, according to the Shia, the first person who should succeed him is Ali. And then Ali infallibly says that he should be succeeded by Hassan, and Hassan by Hussein. So you get the picture. So for the Shia, he is the third successor of Muhammad, the third of the imams, as they called them. The imams are the worldwide leaders of the Muslim community. They are, as we would say, political leaders, religious or spiritual leaders, but also they are legal and military leaders. So they have all the reins of leadership in their hands. Now, immediately after the death of Muhammad in 632, there was a dispute amongst the Muslim community, and it was precisely over the question, who should succeed Muhammad? The majority of the community decided not to go with this election of the family of Muhammad, the Ahl al-Bayt, we say. In other words, as far as the Shia are concerned, they were deliberately breaking the divine command that it should be Ali who should succeed. Now you can see we already have a tension that's growing here. This majority group who moved away, these are called the Sunni. The minority who stood firm beside Ali are called the Shia. And so right up to today, we are aware of two groups of Muslims, the Sunnis and the Shia. And now we know their historical background. So after the death of Imam Ali, he was succeeded by his son Hassan. Now, there was a tension within the Muslim community because people didn't want this setting up of a leadership within a family, and so they said, we'll have anything else apart from that. Now, what happened is that a particular family amongst the Sunnis took leadership, and everybody agrees that this family became corrupt leaders. Hussein didn't want to accept the leadership of this corrupt family, and so he tried to pull away, to withdraw from the conflict, to withdraw from living under their rule. And so he went to the holy city of Mecca. Now, he knew that he was going to be asked to swear allegiance to this ruling family, and he wasn't prepared to accept that. And so rather than give in to tyranny, to injustice, he first withdrew to Mecca, and then he set off on a journey to cross into modern-day Iraq, to a place called Kufa. This is the story of the beginning of the time of Imam Hussain, and we've now reached the year 680, 50 years after the death of Muhammad.
Chris, as far as Imam Hussein's concerned, what is his relevance, to religion in general?
We can say that all religion is about what do you hold to be most important? What are the ultimately important things in life? What's the ultimately important thing in your own life? So one of the things that Islam would say is that truth and justice are centrally important in the lives of human beings. Human beings have a particular tendency towards justice. We seek to act justly, we seek to follow the truth, to seek it out and to go with it. Now, how far are you prepared to go in searching for truth and justice? Hussein was prepared to go all the way. Hussein was prepared to go even to the point of death in a horrible way in order to defend the principles of truth and justice. So if somebody says to you, for the sake of a quiet life, for the sake of a lot of money, for the sake of a beautiful woman, are you prepared to give in to injustice in the world? Are you prepared to say what is untrue is really true? Now Hussein stands on the ground of justice and truth. So what happens is that in 680 he's travelling with a group of his companions. By tradition here we're talking about 72 men plus women and children, and they're travelling across the desert toward Iraq, toward Kufa. They are shadowed by the army of this ruling family that's taken over leadership within the community. This army is massive. Again, by tradition, we're saying something like 30,000 soldiers. And they shadow them day by day in their progression, until it comes to the place called Karbala. And in Karbala, they are surrounded. They can't go forward, they can't go back. Now, Karbala is a place without water. It's a place in the desert. It's the worst place you can imagine that you would want to be stranded. And now comes the question, do you give in to the forces of injustice, to the forces of falsehood, or are you prepared to stand your ground? And so what happens during these 10 days of the siege at Karbala is that Hussein and his family are tested. Day after day the testing goes on. They're denied water. People go and try and get water and are killed in the process. The children are obviously crying, no water, no food. So Hussein on one occasion goes out and says to the enemy, look, I know you don't like me, but surely you don't want to take it out on a small baby. Please give water to the children. I'll leave the baby here on the rock. You can give him water later. And the child is shot in Hussein's arms with a bow and arrow. So you can see the tension is building up here day by day until we reach the 10th day. The 10th day is called Ashura Day, the 10th of the month of Muharram. It's on this day that the massacre takes place. Now you can imagine, 72 men against 30,000. There's no discussion here about what the outcome is going to be. Hussein and his companions are killed. It's a massacre. After they've killed them, they desecrate the bodies. So they ride the horses backwards and forwards over the bodies just to smash them. and then they take the women and children away into captivity. Now you can see it was clear this was going to happen. What do you think if you've got 30,000 soldiers who are shadowing you, and they are intent on seeing that you do not reach your goal? And yet Hussain goes forward, rather than give in to injustice, give in to falsehood. And so he becomes a great role model for all Muslims, for the Shia especially. He becomes a role model of saying, we will stand on the principles of truth and justice, we will resist oppression, we will not give in even to the point of death, if that's what God has ordained for us. Rather than accept falsehood and injustice, we will sacrifice our lives. This is why Hussain becomes important. Now, something has gone horribly wrong in the Muslim community. Here we are 50 years, not quite 50 years, after the death of Muhammad, and we have the grandson of Muhammad being brutally killed in this way. Not only is he the grandson and the imam, but he is somebody of the highest spiritual qualities, we can say, because he is somebody through whom God speaks. God guides the community. And so he sets a role model. A role model, we can say, that right will triumph over might. That even though you are few, even though you appear to be small, here we are, 1400 years later, and everybody remembers the day of Karbala. Everybody remembers the massacre. And so during these 10 days of mourning, Shia Muslims are reenacting, are remembering those days at Karbala, the days of the siege, the day of the massacre. And so they are steeling themselves. O God, if it be necessary, I too will stand on the principles of justice and of truth. I will stand against oppression and falsehood. Now this is a challenge for all human beings, whether we're religious or not, whether we're Christians or Muslims or anything else. Where do we stand on the question of truth and justice? How important is it to us, and to what lengths are we prepared to go to defend these principles?
I mean, as far as Hussain goes, I mean, what exactly, can we learn from him?
The important thing about the message of Imam Hussain is to say, this life is not all there is. There is something more important, and that's the life to come. And even for the sake of our own lives, we are willing to sacrifice for the life to come. Secondly, it's a message to say the whole of life is a risk, from the moment you're born to the moment you die. And so the question is, what are those highest ethical principles, those highest spiritual values for which you are prepared to risk everything? Not just your life, but the life of your family too. So it's a challenge to us to reflect on our own value structure.
What is the relevance as far as Islam goes today in a modern society?
Islam believes that every single human being is born with a natural sense of justice, of truth, of uprightness. And so it's as though a word like justice can ring a bell in the heart of every human being and say, yeah, actually, that's got something to say to me too. So I think that a big, bold statement like the day of Karbala rings this bell in the hearts of many human beings who actually believe If it's not fair, it's not right. If it's not just, we ought to do something about it. If it's not true, we ought to take notice. These things give us an ethic by which people can live, by which people are challenged, even if they choose not to live by it. So there we are. Hussain is a witness to us. Hussain is an example to us as human beings. What are our value structures? For what are we prepared to risk? And just how far are we prepared to go so that honesty, justice and truth should actually win in the world, even at the cost of our apparently losing right at this moment? Thank you very much.